The International Trade Union Confederation, the ITUC, has condemned attacks on trade union rights in Greece, warning that a new labour law to be passed by the Greek parliament next week is an attack on freedom of association and should immediately be reviewed by the International Labour Organization to ensure compliance with ILO standards. To discuss this issue further, we are joined on the line by the ITUC General Secretary, Sharan Burrow. Good afternoon, Ms. Burrow. Thank you for joining us.
Good afternoon.
Now, what workers' rights are being threatened through the Greek government's new labour law?
If the labour law goes through the parliament, you're effectively saying that the power is now shifted to the employers. So the rights of workers to bargain collectively, to actually get a fair share of wages for everybody without fear of that employer power is absolutely smashed. So if an employer says, I'm not going to bargain with the union, but I'll bargain with these individuals and I'll sign this contract with them, then that absolutely destroys the international right to join together, to bargain collectively, to balance your union power against the power of employers. I've seen this in New Zealand, in Australia. For 3 years in my previous role, we fought individual contracts or company-based contracts because it was all about driving down wages and conditions. And ultimately, that's economic insanity as well because it drives down demand in your economy, which desperately needs demand and growth.
Now, you have said that union rights which have been fought and won in the last 100 years are being stripped away in Greece, and that the ITUC will be leading the international defense of workers' rights. Could you please explain what you mean when you say international defense?
Well, to date, when the ILO and the International Trade Union Movement have said that a company's labour laws were in fact in breach of international standards, then there's been some avenue for governments to listen to that. Social dialogue has worked. People have sat at the table. They've worked out a fair set of legislative provisions that respect international law. What we're seeing now, the pressure from the IMF, the European Commission, the demands from the Greek government are actually attacking workers. So the second wave of the financial crisis everywhere, not just in Greece, but in Romania, in Hungary, in Slovakia, in Helen, in Portugal, in Malaysia, I can go on. What we're seeing is workers are now the victims of a global economic frame that the financial sector has created by its greed. And that's not going to help either economic recovery or indeed protect the rights of workers or the capacity of families to pay their bills. So we need to do more now. It's not enough for us just to stand up, to ask the ILO to review it, to take a complaint. We'll be discussing at our General Council next week a fight-back strategy with the European trade unions, with the trade unions in America, with the trade unions in Asia. This is now a global stand and fight demand from workers on the basis of fundamental rights, the human rights of freedom of association and the right to bargain collectively.
The ITUC has called on the European Union to assist investment in jobs and support a financial transaction tax to raise urgently needed finance for job creation. What is the financial transaction tax?
Well, the financial transactions tax is a minute amount of money taken from the richest sector, the financial sector, which not only caused the crisis, but in fact is still maintaining massive profits through speculative activity, 40% of which has nothing to do with the real economy and jobs. They should pay just a tiny bit, which would raise billions of dollars. Taxation is now a major issue. But more broadly, what we also need to see is that not is there just a debt solution where you are collectivising debt in Europe, but if you're going to have an integrated market, we need investment in jobs. So there's got to be a European-wide investment strategy to grow jobs, to grow industries, to grow demand in every country. Part of that could be paid for from a financial transactions tax, not just at the national level, but by a small amount of it being contributed to a European-wide or indeed a global fund.
You have also said that workers in work will drive the economy out of crisis, not the bankers. This seems to be the exact opposite of what the Greek government and the EU and IMF are implementing in Greece. Is this the case? Is it the complete opposite, or is there something else along down the line that we can expect from them?
What we've said all along is that fiscal consolidation is important, but it can only be sustainable if it's leveraged off growth from employment. That's the basis of demand, income, whether it's social protection, minimum wages, or indeed a better distribution of wages, and of course taxation. What we need to do is make sure that in fact there isn't this orthodoxy of simply cutting wages, cutting pensions, cutting conditions, and the pretense that that will drive any kind of resolution. Won't drive jobs. It won't allow the corner butcher or the baker to actually be sure their customers can afford their contribution. So what we say is, what has been the truth in every economic downturn, that it's workers in productive work, in jobs, that will have the income base to drive economies, create growth, and get us through the global financial crisis. We have to create something like 400 million jobs in the next 10 years just to accommodate the young people seeking to enter our labour markets whose hopes are being dashed for a secure future, let alone the 210 million jobs for those unemployed globally now. In Greece, we need to see investment in growth. We need to see income-led growth, which means opposing these labour rights attacks that will take away the right to bargain collectively. We need to see a global commitment to the social protection floor that will mean every family can actually put food on the table, can make sure that they pay their electricity or gas bills. This is about dignity, and it's about a saner approach to economic growth, not one driven by the bankers.